Team 7 was on a mission as usual, fighting against some bandits deep in the forest. Sasuke and Naruto were as always trying to outdo each other mid-mission, as Sakura was just trying to follow Kakashi's instructions. Kakashi was just sitting on a branch having an overwatch over the fight while reading one of his books. To any shinobi that didn't know him well, it might have looked like he was slacking off, but he was paying close attention to what each of them was doing. Naruto saw himself getting surrounded by a group of ninja and decided to use his sexy jutsu to buy him a momentary distraction. It worked like a charm. In the clouds it created provided extra cover and blocked visibility for the enemy shinobi. His shadow clones descended on the shinobi and he easily beat them nice and easy. Oh, you better believe it. Sasuke didn't want to admit it, but he was nearing his limit. Not working as a team really was taking its toll, and Kakashi still made no mention of it. Sakura was trying to help out when she could, but even she could only do so much. You need my help there, Naruto shouted from the other side while beating on a shinobi. No Dobi, I don't need anyone's help. Sasuke suddenly caught a knee to the stomach, sending him flying back up against a tree. Sasuke! Shouted Sakura. Sensei, help Sasuke, Sakura pleaded, and Kakashi glanced over to see how it was going for Sasuke, then looked back to his book. Sasuke saw this and just scoffed. The one time I might actually need you, you can't pull through as expected. I guess it's time to take a move out of the Dobi's playbook. Disgraceful. Sasuke suddenly threw a smoke bomb and started on some hand signs which caught Kakashi's attention. Well, this is interesting, let's see how this plays out, said Kakashi as he lowered his book, now watching intently. There was a loud poof and a small mist with some clouds, but what emerged wasn't a nude sexy jutsu but Sasuke in his female henge. His form bared some resemblance to him, like a long-lost cousin with long dark hair that reached past his shoulders, with the same blue shirt he always wore but pushed up by his newfound height so that he was wearing it as a crop top, white shorts with shinobi sandals. All this was encompassed in a petite figure that oddly matched the whole get-up too well. He had decided to at least keep his clothes on for some decency. I still have some honor. It wasn't on the same level as Naruto's sexy jutsu, but it brought him enough time to get some space between him and the enemy shinobi, even managing to take down some of them. Kakashi was now paying close attention. So that's what your henge looks like? He thought, finally putting away his novel. This fight was getting too long for him and they were going to be late getting home, and he wasn't in the mood. With a puff he suddenly appeared next to Sakura and gave her a light tap on the shoulder as he walked past her. I got this, why don't you catch your breath there, Sakura? She wanted to protest but just opted to hunch over and take some large breaths. Kakashi walked towards the enemy shinobi with his hands in his pockets, then suddenly appeared in front of them. I think that's enough out of you guys. It all happened too quickly for them to even see what happened properly, but they suddenly found themselves losing consciousness and balance. This is what happens when you're challenged. Minato Uzumaki's pupil. Kakashi looked over and saw that Naruto, even though reckless and lacking any form of control or direction, had more or less defeated all the shinobi he was fighting, but Sasuke on the other hand had not. Sasuke dodged a kunai throw, retaliating with his own, taking down the bandage, but they were still more. He was still keeping his female form henge on, even though it was slightly draining his chakra. He was seeing the advantages of having a body with a longer reach. That Dobi probably never thought to use it like this, didn't he? He was still having a hard time. He might have been a better fighter, but they had more numbers and that was starting to catch up to him. So Sasuke? Asked Kakashi, appearing beside him in the tree he was currently seeking refuge in to give himself some breathing room. Need my help? Oh wow, my hero, nice of you to finally care, Sensei, Sasuke retorted, earning himself a mocking whimper from Kakashi. All I ever wanna do is teach my right from wrong, but my efforts aren't even appreciated. He was milking his performance for all it was worth, which made the bandits hesitate for a moment. Even when I created the perfect opportunity for you to do something, he plainly said, now looking at Sasuke, who was for a moment caught off guard. The bandits charged after Sasuke and he had not taken advantage of the distraction but rushed to meet them in the fray. He held up as best as he could till a momentarily slip up had him lose his footing, allowing for one of the bandits to kick at his ankle, stunning him on the ground. Kakashi waited to see if Sasuke would get up, but he could see that his ankle was hurt, so he decided to step in. Okay, game over now, he said nonchalantly, sending an array of kunai bombs taking out the remaining bandits. He slowly walked over to Sasuke, who was doing his best to put on an unbothered face, but he could see that the last shot had found its mark. Still don't need my help? Kakashi asked with a smug grin under his mask that you could see in his eyes. Sasuke forced himself up, still in his female hinge, to his feet, using a tree to hold himself up like I love or need you. Kakashi nodded, then disappeared, appearing before Naruto and Sakura at the bottom of the tree. Okay guys, have you tied up all those guys? The two nodded. All right. The cleanup crew should be here to take them away, too many of them to carry on our own. Sakura looked around, then up, catching sight of a petite, slightly tall brunette at the top of the branches, and quickly asked, Sensei, who is that? Kakashi let out a short giggle before pointing and plainly saying, oh, that's Sasuke. With that, Naruto started laughing. Ha ha ha, look what we have here. I'm already stealing from my genius, aren't you? Ha ha. He was silenced by a big punch to the top of his head by Sakura. Shut up, you idiot. Sasuke probably had a good reason why he transformed like that. Unlike you, Sasuke just growled at them, hiding his wobbly foot that was in more pain than he cared to admit. I wasn't stealing it, your genius. I just decided that someone of better skill could use it for a moment, he said smugly, literally looking down on Naruto from the top branch of the tree. What, like you could do it better than me, you emo bastard? Earning himself another knock from Sakura. Any place, anytime, Dobi. The cleanup team arrived and started taking away the bandits as the two continued to argue, with Kakashi getting back to his novel directing the cleanup crew. I am the best at the sexy jest mine has been perfected over long years of study. This earned him another slap from Sakura. Hentai, she said with a disgusted look on her face. No Sakura, it's not like that. I mean, I've trained to balance it and can keep it a long time like my shadow clones. She wasn't buying it, and neither was Sasuke. Baka, he said from the top of the branch. Are you calling me an idiot, you bastard? I have better chakra control than you. Why don't you get down here and say it to my face? Sasuke locked eyes with Kakashi, and he knew his sensei knew why he couldn't come down, but Kakashi chose to say nothing. Chakra control is nothing, and I can probably do it better without a stupid fox to help me out. A quiet thud broke the tension, directing all of their eyes to Kakashi, who had just closed his novel. That sounds like a wonderful idea, said Kakashi, moving away from the tree. What does Sensei? Asked Sakura nervously. Picking a punishment for each of you after that poor excuse for teamwork. And it looks like Sasuke, you already have yours. Maintain that form as long as possible. The forest went quiet, with only the sounds of the cleanup crew leaving making noise, till in unison Sakura and Sasuke screamed out, what? ? Naruto just burst out laughing, and Sasuke was about to retort but was met by a glare from Kakashi. Sakura caught sight of it too and decided not to intervene. As Naruto was laughing, a shadow hovered over him and he opened his eyes, meeting Kakashi's own. Well, if it isn't out MVP, he said cheerily, patting Naruto's shoulders. Naruto felt chills run down his spine, letting out a nervous laugh. Sasuke has quite the point. You do rely on the power of the fox a lot, and it can be unstable, so your punishment is to focus training on jutsus without it. Kakashi swiveled towards Sakura, making her flinch. And yours? Kakashi said slowly, making his way to the bottom of the tree Sasuke was standing on. You will need to learn some basics from Guy in your taijutsu and I will teach you how to further enhance your strength. You know the fundamentals already, so it shouldn't be hard. The three students could hardly believe it, not by how weird the training sounded but that Kakashi seemed to actually be putting in some effort this time. We are running late and I would like to be home soon, so let's get going, Kakashi said, waving for them to start leaving. Except Sasuke didn't move. Sasuke, we have to get going. What are you still doing up there? Let's get going. Yay Sasuke, we don't wanna be late, said Naruto and Sakura while still walking away. Hinged in his female form with an injured ankle, he wasn't liking his prospects. What type of nonsense is this? What type of nonsense is this? Came a voice from behind him with the question he had been thinking about. He turned around, pouting at the sight of Kakashi back up in the tree branch looking at him. His normal expression would have been filled with a death glare and disgust, but this one seemed different even to Kakashi, but he couldn't explain how and he wasn't going to bother. I always say never leave your comrades behind to those two, but the inverse of that is never hold your teammates back as well. Sasuke made a botched attempt at jumping to the next tree in order to make the mad dash to get to the other two that were slowly fading into the distance. Kakashi quickly jumped, catching him and landing on another branch before he could fall. So was that your genius plan? He asked mockingly, earning him what would normally constitute a death glare from Sasuke, but he wasn't as good at hiding his emotions in this form and it showed. He was embarrassed. Time to make a choice, Kakashi said with Sasuke still held in his arms in a bridal position, which for the Uchiha was already a massive hit to his pride. You can either have Naruto carry you back home and you'll never hear the end of that, or Sakura and ... well you know how that'll go, or me. Simple as that. Sasuke really had no choice and he didn't know how long this punishment was going to take, gauging from Kakashi's attitude. You, he whispered so lowly that even a person standing beside him wouldn't hear. His sensu not having any of it made him say it again. What do you want, Sasuke? He waited. Can you take me back, Kakashi-sensei? His normal voice would have been rude and sarcastic, but this one was quiet and completely different under this hinge. It was sweet with a lot of innocence, and in Kakashi's mind, there was a brief glimpse of Ren for a second, which only made him tighten his grip for a moment around Sasuke, with his gaze looking off into the distance. Kakashi-sensei, are you okay, old man? Sasuke asked after he felt Kakashi's grip on him tighten around him with him still in his arms in a bridal position, but then he looked at his face and saw that faraway look that only a few could recognize. The one of pain and suffering that he once thought he had when Itachi had killed everyone in the clan and left him alive, alone. He never liked that look because it always brought back memories that he would rather forget, like his failure after making an attempt to stop Itachi but being easily chucked aside and only listen in his weakened state as Itachi slaughtered through the whole clan and he tucked himself into a ball. He inadvertently started tucking himself into a ball, leaning his head more into Kakashi's chest. It was quiet for a while till Sakura in the distance screamed out, Kakashi-sensei, we should get moving, we don't wanna be late. This snapped the both of them out of their stunned state, with Kakashi loosening his grip on Sasuke and him unfurling himself. I think it's better if you get on my back, said Kakashi, neither of them wanting to make eye contact. I think so too, it makes tactical sense. Kakashi put him down before taking any in front of him. Hop on. His tone was not his usual seemingly uncaring tone. Sasuke hopped on, looking away in embarrassment as if someone was watching them. He put his hands on Kakashi's shoulders and chose not to lean in as Kakashi's hands wrapped around his thighs, locking him into positions. Kakashi had carried Sasuke a couple of times after battles with Naruto that would leave the both of them drained and worn out, but him while in this female form was a first, and he swore he could felt every curve all over Sasuke's thighs, and it didn't help that he had been reading one of his novels just a few moments before. Nonetheless, He pushed forward, breaking into a dash up above the trees, and after a few minutes running at full speed, they had caught up with the other two members of Team 7. As they caught up, Naruto looked around Kakashi, whereas Sasuke stopped mid-question as he caught sight of Sasuke on Kakashi's back, silently glaring at him. Naruto burst out laughing. "So that's why you were slowing us down some. That little sparring match there took a lot out of, didn't?" He was laughing so hard he didn't even notice a branch coming at him till it hit him on the side of the head. "Leave Sasuke alone, you idiot. He obviously had bigger problems to worry about in that fight than you," she said in a huff, with Naruto simply muttering beneath his breath sarcastically, "Sure he does." Sasuke was still trying to figure out why Kakashi had suddenly gripped him tight back then, and that look on his face just what caused it. He thought, realizing how tired he must have actually been for pushing himself that much in the fight to try to outdo Naruto, but he didn't have a Nine-Tails backing him up. He snaked his arms around Kakashi's neck to get a better grip so he wouldn't fall, and leaned against his back. This gave him a flashback of when Ichi used to give him piggyback rides after he returned from missions. "I will have my revenge, Ichi. I swear on Mom and Dad's life, on all of the clan, you will pay for what you did soon." Konoha started coming into view as they approached one of the guard gates and slowed down to go through the checkpoint. Then Sasuke realized that a lot of people were about to see him in his female henge, and he just couldn't bear people associating him on the same level with Naruto. "Hey, Kakashi, why don't we avoid the gates this time?" Kakashi looked to the reason why Sasuke was trying to dodge this, and then he remembered, "Don't tell me Inakaya is embarrassed to be seen in this form." Sasuke just scoffed as they approached the gate guard, who was already waving, seeing Kakashi, Naruto and Sakura as they waved back, so he opted for a simple but effective move. He buried his face in Kakashi's back again and went to sleep as the guards approached. Sakura saw this and what he was doing and decided to help out as they go to the guards. "Team 7, welcome back. Are all of you accounted for?" they asked as they did some checks past Naruto, Sakura, then Kakashi. They then got to the girl who was nestled on Kakashi's back, and one of them scanned a henge? They asked, not quite sure, looking back at Kakashi confused. Naruto was readying up to spill the beans with a big grin on his face till he received a massive karate chop to the back of his neck, knocking him out. "Sorry Naruto, there was a bug on your neck, I hope I got it," she said deviously, glancing back at Sasuke, giving him a wink as she could see one of his eyes was slightly cracked open to see what was happening. "Well, you see, we were on an infiltration mission, so Sasuke pulled out all the stops to help us, and he expended a lot of his strength, so he's kinda tired right now, but was mission first, so he left the henge on for us," Sakura said, lying through her teeth with a big smile on her face whilst stepping on Naruto's head. "Well, okay. Then the guard stammered out, glancing back to Kakashi, who just shrugged, and the guard just face-palmed. "Well, move along then." They walked past the guards with Kakashi leading the group. "Well, let's head to the hospital and get your three checked up." Sasuke immediately tightened his grip around Kakashi's neck. "I think you will take these two to get checked up and you can drop me back at home," Sasuke said, glaring at Kakashi. "What don't want people seeing you stealing a move out of my book," Naruto said, boastful. Sakura just scoffed at him but kept walking in silence. "No can do, Sasuke. Hokage's orders. If you're injured during a mission, you need to go to medical upon your return or be treated by a qualified shinobi." Sasuke took his right hand and lightly tapped his finger on Kakashi's head. "I can do it myself, but since you insist, then make yourself useful, sensei." Kakashi reached up and slowly removed Sasuke's hand from his head, putting it back on his shoulder. "Ease up there. That honestly sounds like too much work and I could use a hot bath right about now." Sakura walked a bit faster to catch up with her sensei. "Sasuke, you need to get checked up, hon. "I know you're fine, but just in case," she shyly cautiously muttered out, not making eye contact with him the entire time. "If I wanted your opinion I would have asked for it, Sakura," Sasuke said with arrogance. Even with the feminine voice of his hinge, it hit on its mark with Sakura. "Hey you stupid bastard, don't say that to Sakura," Naruto said from behind Sasuke, only getting himself a nonchalant wave from the Uchiha. If she didn't want to hear that, then she shouldn't ha. Oh ouch, he thought as he felt a pinch on his left inner thigh. He looked down and saw Kakashi still pinching him. He let out a low growl and tightening his hold around Kakashi's neck, but he wasn't stopping. Out of the corner of his eye he saw Sakura glancing at him oddly. "Shit, I've gotta stop him before she catches on." He propped himself up on Kakashi's back, putting his chin on the left shoulder of his sensei next to his face, and silently whispered into his ear, "Hentai." Kakashi turned to let out an eye roll but lessened his pinching, simply replying, "I don't care much." Naruto and Sakura just turned to him surprised. "What do you mean, sensei?" they both asked in unison. Sasuke tensed up and Kakashi could feel it as well. "I was just asking Kakashi sensei to patch me up and teach me some stuff while he was at it, but I guess he doesn't care." "Wow, really Kakashi?" said Naruto, even seeming more surprised. "Even that's low for you, Kakashi sensei," said Sakura, walking a bit ahead of the group. Kakashi could stand a great many things good and bad about him if the source was him, but coming from someone else rubbed him the wrong way. He sent a little shock into Sasuke's thigh that was uncalled for. He whispered in Kakashi's ear, "Okay fine, since you insist on ruining my beauty sleep," he said, walking with Sasuke on his back. He didn't want to admit it, but the entire time he had been feeling every part of his new form since he got on his back. He cursed his ultra-sensitive ninja senses. Despite Sasuke's pale-looking porcelain white skin, even in his female hinge form, he had heat radiating off him, which was definitely noticeable as the sun was setting, getting darker and colder. Kakashi made sure to at least walk the other two to the hospital whilst waiting outside with Sasuke in silence. After having stopped pinching his thigh, "You know you don't have to walk with us around like babies, you know," said Naruto, a little annoyed. "It's just one of my duties there," sensei said smugly. "Oh really, and today you just decided to do it," retorted Sakura. "Easy there, tiger," Kakashi said, making a calming gesture towards Sakura. After a while, they dropped off the other two as Kakashi was now on his walk to his house with Sasuke on his back, now in complete silence without the other two there. He thought to break this new tension even if he preferred it. "So how are you liking the new form?" he said jokingly, barely able to contain his laughter. "It wouldn't be so bad if I wasn't with this pervert the whole time," Sasuke said, pinching Kakashi's neck with his right hand. "Ow ow ow ouch," the copy ninja completely overselling the pain with such an injury. "I don't know if I'm gonna be able to fix your leg. I guess we have to turn back now." Sasuke immediately stopped and turned Kakashi's head around back to the side he was walking before. "Seems fine to me, not even a mark in sight." Kakashi laughed, then continued back on the route to his house. "This new voice, I prefer it. It's not so much of a murder on the ears as the other one." Sasuke just rolled his eyes. "So are we there yet? You know, you could have just run there and we probably could have been there already." Kakashi just shrugged. "I'm in no rush. After all, this is how I usually walk home, taking in the sights." They were now nearing some of the outskirts of Konoha when Sasuke caught sight of one lone building positioned away from the others by itself. They arrived at the low wall surrounding it and he saw the signage on the side of it, Teika Residence. Sasuke noticed Kakashi stop for a minute outside the gates as if considering something, then calmly walk in. Surprisingly, he had expected Kakashi to be a slob, but the place was by far one of the most organized places he had ever seen. Even the grass in the front yard and flowers looked perfect. They got to the door and Kakashi opened it and walked in. He stopped himself as he was about to stammer out a hello. He knows what happened, but sometimes it even slips from his memories, even if it's for the briefest moment, once every few months or years. Sasuke had heard him do his slip up but just chose to ignore it. You must be getting really old, the Uchiha thought. He took off his shoes and put Sasuke down on a small cupboard. Okay, let me take off those shoes. Sasuke slapped away his hands. Even I can do something so simple, you pervert. He took off the first shoe on his own, but when he went for the next, a searing pain shot up across his ankle. He tried it a few more times, but the result was still the same. He couldn't and didn't want to take it off. Kakashi just looked at him as he walked off to a cupboard and took out a medical aid kit. As he walked back to Sasuke and started unpacking it next to him. You know, it's fine to ask for help, he said, more as a statement and less as a question, earning him a glare from the Uchiha. Oh really, and have everyone take advantage of you? No thanks. Kakashi finished laying out the medical kit and he took a knee and gently held Sasuke's ankle. Asking for help doesn't make you weak, he stated in such a neutral tone that Sasuke inched forward to take a look at him as he asked for his ankle. Tell that to the vultures when they start circling, he said, waiting to see how Kakashi was going to respond. He would never admit, but he really wanted to hear what he would say. The both of them knew this conversation was becoming more than about a simply ankle twist. Showing you care when others are there, even not being able to help, is a great first step. The puzzled look on Sasuke said it all but was immediately broken as he felt the pain build up from his ankle as his sandal was being slid off. He wanted to protest, but the pain was not as bad as when he had done it himself, and was taking note of Kakashi's gentleness and the delicate way he was taking care of him. You know, I'm not some porcelain doll, right? You don't need to be so gentle. He wanted to complain more, but the sandal was already off and placed beside Kakashi's. The sensei took off his gloves as he took a towel and a large bowl. Water jutsu. A single stream of water came out of his finger into the large bowl and slowly filled it up. Afterwards, he placed his hand into the bowl and began channeling the water inside the bowl really faster, and in only a matter of moments, it was hot. Kakashi placed a towel in the hot water and dried it off and started lightly cleaning around and at the ankle, with the slight grunts coming from Sasuke with each time the hot towel made contact. This went on for a while and Sasuke could tell that his ankle was already doing better. At least the swelling had gone down a lot and the heat helped. Kakashi, I know you know some medical jutsu, so why don't you just use it on me? The words rang in his head for a minute as flashing images of him trying to use his healing jutsu on Rin after he had woken up flashed in his mind. Sasuke noted his frozen state and was about to pull his ankle away when it was gently tugged back. Whatever do you mean, Sasuke? Last time I checked, I'm not a medical shinobi, so how would I know such a jutsu? Sasuke just shook his head. So you're going to play dumb? He felt a sudden shiver run through his body from his ankle and looked down to see Kakashi applying some ointment that was really cold. He was spreading it all over his ankle, even the spots that didn't hurt, making sure to rub it in smoothly, and finally spoke after a while. I can do medical jutsu, unlike the majority of shinobi who need a shinobi trained in medical jutsu to fix such small problems. So take this as a field test on what type of situation you would be in if I or the village weren't there as your quick fix. It did make sense to Sasuke. If Kakashi hadn't been there in that situation, it would have been much worse for him. Okay, this gonna hurt a bit, Kakashi said as he started wrapping the bandages around his ankle, but thank Kami he decided to do it quickly this time. With their little small medical session done, he picked up Sasuke in the bridal position once again and headed for his living room. You know, I could have stumbled my way over here, right? Plus why bring me here anyway? I should be heading home now. Kakashi just sighed and dropped him off on the couch. Stay, he said as if ordering a pet around, earning him a growl from Sasuke. As Kakashi went off to what looked like the kitchen, Sasuke finally had a moment to look around the house a bit. Even from his seated position on the couch he could see most of it. Wow, he has such a big place for only himself, and he is the one that always talks about being modest. If I didn't know. Sasuke went silent as he saw a picture on one of the displays of what looked like a younger Kakashi, a random girl, their sensei and his uncle Obito. They were on the same team. He uttered in shock as he lightly hopped over to the picture on one foot and slowly picked it up. Yeah, no doubt that's Uncle Obito. What really struck him as odd was what looked like a genuine smile on Kakashi's face, not a smug one, a contented one, just a smile. Sasuke found himself smiling a bit at the picture, unknowingly. Guess even he can smile like that. He looked over and saw other pictures, each of them Kakashi was with someone, but as he looked at more and more pictures, fewer and fewer people appeared in them beside him. He saw a picture of Kakashi holding the hand of a white-haired man in one picture, and beside it stood a portrait of himself alone with a blank neutral expression on his face as if he was broken. Sasuke didn't care, but he wanted to know what had caused that to suddenly appear on Kakashi's face. There were no more pictures for a while till one appeared with an older Kakashi, much like how he looked now. One was of him with Might Guy holding him in a headlock he didn't look like he was trying to get out of, and the last of him with Team 7. Sakura was smiling on one side, posing, Naruto laughing and Sasuke pouting as Kakashi ruffled their hair, but that smile he had was not the same. So done snooping, a sly voice said from the door, forcing Sasuke to turn around fast to try and disguise what he was doing. It was just tactical information gathering. You know something we're supposed to learn from our sensei? Sasuke could see Kakashi wasn't buying it, so just decided to draw his attention elsewhere. So, he asked nervously. Kakashi could see what he was trying to do, but just decided to roll with it since it wasn't worth the hassle. Yay, and some home remedies. Sit down and have some. They both walked and sat down on the couch, and that was when Sasuke noticed Kakashi had taken off his shinobi armor and shoes, instead opting for a simple white shirt and bare feet, but he still had his shinobi pants on. He had never seen Kakashi in such a relaxed state. Kakashi reached for the remote, turning on the TV to some romance movie, one of the adaptations from one of his novels, well, the less perverse ones, and sat quietly. Sasuke was having the home remedy. Kakashi reached down, he would rather have had normal tea, surprising him, but he let him continue as Kakashi propped it up on the coffee table with some cushions without so much as a word and turned back to the TV. Pull up your shirt, he said plainly, which caught Sasuke off guard. What? Kakashi pointed to his stomach. You took a knee to the stomach, right? I'm guessing you have some bruising. Sasuke didn't want to admit it, but he didn't want to have someone touching him. To feel that vulnerable was something that he did not want to experience, but he trusted Kakashi, well, as much as he could. He slowly lifted the little bit of his shirt, now crop top, revealing his stomach that had some bruising, showing some purple coloring on his otherwise perfect porcelain white skin. So you're going to apply the ointment or what? He asked as he saw Kakashi was still staring at his stomach. That bad, huh? He said, moving his hand onto Sasuke's stomach, which made the Uchiha flinch for a second before relaxing, and then a soft glow started coming from his hand, which surprised Sasuke. The warm glow that came from Kakashi's hand as his chakra flowed into Sasuke was amazing to him. Kakashi leaned back into the couch, looking back at the TV while his arm continued to glow on Sasuke's stomach. Sasuke just glanced at him for a while, but Kakashi didn't seem to care till he was disturbed by the sound of a rumbling stomach. I'm guessing you didn't eat much? He asked, turning his attention back to Sasuke. The Uchiha just looked away from him into the TV as if he hadn't been staring, like we had time to eat anything fulfilling out there. Rations really don't count as food, he replied, sipping more on what was left of his home remedy. I don't really feel like cooking today, said Kakashi, walking over to get his phone. So what do you want to eat? Sasuke just shrugged. I'm the guest you're supposed to treat me, remember, he said, giving Kakashi a sly smirk and wink, but with his new form he had no idea how suggestive he appeared. Kakashi just sent him back a smile, and that caught Sasuke by surprise. He turned his attention back to the TV, watching the rom-com that Kakashi had left as he was trying to make sense of the story. The story seemed to be about three friends. Two of them were in love, but the third one was always there, as if looking through a looking glass at the other two and never being truly able to express his feelings. As he was getting more into the movie, he felt the couch tip a little as Kakashi sat back down, looking back at the TV. It'll be here in a few minutes. With some hesitation, Sasuke took Kakashi's hand and placed it under his shirt onto his stomach. Well, finish up. I think I'm almost fully healed. Okay, take it easy there, but if you get hurt again you will go to the hospital. Sasuke just nodded, not glancing away from the TV. As much as he hated to admit it, the movie had sucked him in. Kakashi glanced over at him, finally taking time to take in his female form, as he hadn't had a moment to truly take it in. Sasuke's new face was so focused on the movie but still showed little emotion, with some slipping through once in a while. Kakashi was now just staring. It had been such a long time since he had someone over at his house. He had made it clear to everyone that he prefers not to be bothered at home, and where his house was positioned at the outskirts of Konoha there were very few people. The doorbell rang and Kakashi immediately appeared before it, catching Sasuke's attention and turning away from the movie. He went outside and the delivery girl tried to make conversation, but Kakashi answered bluntly, shutting it down. And he calls me rude. After a moment he walked in with a couple of bags and closed the door. After a quick check outside by him, he went back to sit down. Wow, paranoid much? Once again the room was filled with silence and only the sound of the movie filling the room. So what did you get? Sasuke asked, his attention not turning from the TV. Salt broiled soy and eggplant mixed miso soup plus a couple of onigiri. Before he could finish listing the rest, Sasuke was already rummaging through the bags, gathering up as much onigiri as he could. Planning to share that? Kakashi asked with a smile on his mask. Sasuke froze, his hands full of onigiri, and what looked like a blush escaped his face, which caught Kakashi off guard. Must be this form of his, because Sasuke would never be caught dead blushing. A hand stretched out to Kakashi's face, holding a single onigiri in front of his face while looking away from him. Cute, Kakashi muttered out before he could stop himself. They both froze. What did you say? Sasuke asked, slowly turning to face Kakashi. Quickly looking around the room, he saw his get out of jail card. This scene here is cute, he said, pointing at the TV, drawing Sasuke's attention to it. Sensing that he might have dodged a bullet, he doubled down. What did you think I meant? I thought you meant nothing, never mind, he said, throwing the onigiri into Kakashi's face and proceeding to start eating the rest quietly. Kakashi's decided to throw him for a loop just for the fun of it. But you're cute too, he said, proceeding to eat his food. He looked back at the TV, ignoring the stare that he could feel coming from Sasuke.